The text that changed everything. The text message arrived at 3:47 a.m. while my wife Sarah slept peacefully beside me. The notification lit up my phone screen with a name I hadn't seen in 15 years. Emma Rodriguez. I know about the baby. We need to talk. Now. My blood turned to ice. There was no baby. There couldn't be. Emma and I had broken up in college when Sarah and I got serious. But as I stared at those 11 words, fragments of a drunken night 6 months ago started piecing themselves together like a horrifying puzzle. If you're into honest stories about relationships, trust, and betrayal, hit that follow button. You won't want to miss the next one. The marketing conference in Denver, the hotel bar. Sarah was home with the flu, and I'd been feeling invisible in my own marriage for months. Emma had been there for her company's presentation, looking exactly like the confident, ambitious woman I'd once planned to marry before I met Sarah, and everything changed. We talked until the bar closed, then moved to the hotel restaurant. One drink became three became a bottle of wine. The conversation drifted from professional updates to personal confessions. She'd been through a messy divorce. I'd been suffocating in a marriage that felt more like a business partnership than a love story, but nothing happened. I was sure nothing happened, wasn't I? I slipped out of bed, grabbing my phone and tiptoeing to the bathroom. My hands shook as I typed back, "What are you talking about? What baby?" The response came immediately, as if she'd been waiting by her phone. Room 412, Hampton Inn, Denver, March 15th. Ring any bells now? March 15th, the night I couldn't fully remember. The night I'd woken up in my hotel room with my shirt on backward and a splitting headache that couldn't be explained by the alcohol alone. I was drunk. We were both drunk. Nothing happened. Check your email. Sent something from my personal account. You'll want to see this before making any more denials. With trembling fingers, I opened my email app. There it was, sent just minutes ago from an address I recognized. A video file titled Denver Truth MP4 and a message that made my knees weak. Pregnant. 22 weeks. Paternity test confirmed. Your wife deserves to know she's married to a liar. Unless we talk. Today. My entire world tilted on its axis. 22 weeks meant she was showing. It meant this was real, undeniable, life-altering real. But it also meant something else that sent my mind reeling. If she was 22 weeks pregnant now, in August, then conception would have been around. I quickly calculated the dates. Late February, early March. The Denver conference was March 15th. The timeline didn't add up. Unless she was lying about the dates. Or unless there was another night I couldn't remember. Or unless. My phone buzzed again. Download the video, watch it alone, then call me. You have 24 hours before I call Sarah myself. I stared at the attachment, my thumb hovering over the download button. Whatever was in that video would either destroy my marriage or prove Emma was lying. Either way, my life as I knew it was about to end. But first, I needed to know what really happened that night in Denver. The video file was 3 minutes and 47 seconds long. I couldn't bring myself to play it while Sarah slept 10 feet away. Instead, I grabbed my keys and headed for my car, my heart hammering against my ribs. Sitting in our driveway at 4 a.m., I finally pressed play. The first thing I saw was myself, clearly intoxicated, fumbling with a hotel room key card. Emma's voice came from behind the camera. "Are you sure about this, Marcus? You're married." My own voice, slurred but unmistakable. "Sarah doesn't have to know. She hasn't touched me in 6 months anyway." I watched in horror as the video showed me pulling Emma into the room, kissing her against the closed door, my wedding ring clearly visible as my hands tangled in her hair. The video cut to what was obviously later. The room was darker, clothes scattered on the floor. I was passed out on the bed while Emma, very much awake, recorded herself getting dressed. "Just in case you try to pretend this never happened," she said to the camera. March 15th, 2025. Hampton Inn, room 412. "You said you loved me, Marcus. Said you'd made a mistake marrying Sarah. Said you wanted to leave her." I had no memory of saying any of those things. The video ended with a timestamp. 2:47 a.m., March 16th, 2025. I sat in my car staring at the black screen, trying to process what I'd just seen. I had betrayed my wife, completely inexcusably betrayed her. But the pregnancy timeline still bothered me. If Emma was 22 weeks pregnant now, conception would have been late February or early March. The Denver conference was mid-March. Something wasn't adding up. My phone rang, Emma's name flashing on the screen. I answered on the first ring. "Did you watch it?" Her voice was different than I remembered. Harder, more calculating. "Emma, save it. You're going to meet me today. There's a diner called Mabel's on Route 9, about halfway between our cities. Be there at 2 p.m. Come alone." "I need to think about this. I need to." "You need to see your daughter, Marcus. That's what you need to do." The line went dead. Your daughter. The words echoed in my head as I sat in the pre-dawn darkness. If this baby was really mine, if I really was going to be a father, then everything I thought I knew about my life was a lie. But there was still something about Emma's story that didn't feel right. The video proved I'd cheated, yes, but proving paternity, that was different. And the way she'd said, "your daughter," with such certainty, when she couldn't possibly know the gender at 22 weeks unless she'd already been pregnant when she came to Denver. I drove back into the house, my mind racing with possibilities, each one worse than the last. Sarah was still asleep, her breathing steady and peaceful. She looked so innocent lying there, trusting and unaware that her husband had blown up their marriage in a hotel room he couldn't even remember. Or had I? The more I thought about it, the more questions arose. Why had Emma been at that conference? Her company wasn't in our industry. Why had she sought me out specifically? And why wait 6 months to tell me about a pregnancy that, by her own timeline, didn't quite make sense? I needed answers. But first, I needed to shower off the cold sweat of panic and figure out how to get through the day without Sarah noticing that my entire world had just imploded. As I stood under the hot water, another horrifying thought occurred to me. What if this wasn't the first time? What if Emma had been planning this for months, maybe years? What if the pregnancy was real but not mine? What if this was an elaborate setup designed to destroy my marriage? Or what if I was just desperate to find any explanation other than accepting that I'd ruined everything with one night of weakness? The questions multiplied like cancer cells, spreading through every certainty I'd held about my life. By the time I stepped out of the shower, I'd made a decision. I would go to that diner. I would face Emma and demand the truth. But I would also be prepared for the possibility that she wasn't the only one keeping secrets. Because if 15 years had taught me anything about Emma Rodriguez, it was that she never did anything without a plan. And I was beginning to suspect that whatever was happening now had been in motion long before that night in Denver. Sarah was awake when I returned to the bedroom, sitting up against the headboard with her coffee. "You're up early," she observed, studying my face with an intensity that made me wonder if she somehow knew. "Couldn't sleep," I said, avoiding her eyes as I got dressed. "Thought I'd go for a drive, clear my head." "Where?" The question was casual, but something in her tone made me pause. "Just around town. Maybe grab some coffee." She nodded slowly, still watching me with those perceptive eyes that had first attracted me to her 12 years ago. "Marcus," she said as I reached for my keys, "is everything okay? You seem different lately." For a moment I considered telling her everything, confessing about Denver, showing her the video, facing whatever consequences came next. But the words stuck in my throat, trapped behind the cowardice that had apparently defined more of my life than I'd realized. "Just work stress," I lied. "The Morrison account is keeping me up at night." She accepted this explanation with a nod, but I caught something in her expression. Relief, maybe, or disappointment that I hadn't chosen honesty. Whatever it was, it suggested Sarah knew more than she was letting on. As I headed for the door, my phone buzzed with another message from Emma. "Bring copies of your tax returns from the past 3 years. You'll understand why when you get here." Tax returns? The request was so bizarre, so far from anything related to a pregnancy, that it stopped me cold. What possible reason could she have for needing my financial information, unless this wasn't about a baby at all, unless this was about something much worse? The drive to Mabel's diner took 2 hours. giving me plenty of time to spiral through increasingly paranoid scenarios. Was Emma blackmailing me? Had she been planning this since college? Was there really a baby, or was this an elaborate con designed to destroy my marriage and drain my savings? By the time I pulled into the diner's gravel parking lot, I'd convinced myself that Emma was either completely unhinged or running a sophisticated long-term revenge plot. Neither possibility was comforting. The diner was exactly what you'd expect from a place called Mabel's. Red vinyl booths, checkered linoleum floors, and the smell of bacon grease that had been accumulating since the Carter administration. Emma sat in a corner booth, facing the door, wearing a loose sweater that could have been hiding a pregnancy or could have been chosen for exactly that ambiguity. She looked up as I approached, and for a moment, I saw the girl I'd loved in college. Then her expression hardened, and I remembered this wasn't a reunion. "You came," she said as I slid into the booth across from her. "Did I have a choice?" She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "There's always a choice, Marcus. That's what you taught me 15 years ago when you chose Sarah." The bitterness in her voice was unmistakable. This wasn't just about a one-night stand or an unexpected pregnancy. This was about something much older and deeper. "Emma, what do you want?" Instead of answering, she slid a manila envelope across the table. "Open it." Inside were photographs, not the kind I'd been dreading from our night in Denver, but something far more confusing. Pictures of me and Sarah from the past 6 months. Leaving our house, at restaurants, walking our dog in the park, professional surveillance photos with timestamps and locations. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. "Insurance," she said simply. "Proof of your routine, your patterns, your life. Evidence that what I'm about to tell you is true." My hands trembled as I flipped through the photos. There were dozens of them, documenting our lives with disturbing detail. Sarah's schedule, my work routine, even pictures of our house from different angles. "You've been stalking us?" "I've been protecting my investment." Emma leaned forward, her eyes cold and calculating. "Do you remember what you promised me our senior year, before you met her?" The question hit me like a physical blow. I did remember. Emma and I had been planning our future together. I'd promised her that after graduation, we'd move to San Francisco, start a consulting firm together, build something meaningful. Then I'd met Sarah at a graduation party, and all those plans had crumbled in the face of immediate, intense attraction. "That was 15 years ago, Emma. We were kids. You destroyed my life." Her voice was steady, matter of fact. I had my entire future planned around us. The business plan was mine. The contacts were mine. The startup capital was from my family. You promised to be my partner, then you vanished for some blonde sorority girl. The pieces were starting to come together, forming a picture so disturbing I wanted to run from the diner and never look back. "The pregnancy," I said slowly. "It's not real, is it?" Emma laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. "Oh, it's real, but it's not yours." She pulled out her phone, showing me an ultrasound image dated 4 months ago. "My husband's. We've been trying for 3 years." "Then why?" "Because you owe me 15 years of lost opportunities. You owe me the business we never built, the life I never lived, the success I had to claw for alone, while you played house with your perfect little wife." The blackmail scheme was becoming clear, but I still didn't understand how the Denver video fit in. "That night at the hotel," I said. "Did we have sex?" Emma shook her head. "You passed out before anything happened, but you said plenty while I helped you to your room, about how unhappy you were, how you'd made a mistake marrying Sarah, how you wished you could go back and choose differently. So you recorded me drunk and vulnerable. I recorded opportunity." She leaned back, satisfied with my growing understanding. "See, Marcus, I spent 15 years watching you from a distance. Social media, professional networks, mutual friends. I watched you build the exact life we'd planned together, just with someone else. The successful consulting firm, the beautiful house, the perfect marriage." She gestured to the photos scattered on the table. "But perfect marriages don't have husbands drinking alone at hotel bars, talking about their regrets to ex-girlfriends. Perfect husbands don't spend 2 hours crying about how invisible they feel in their own homes. My stomach lurched. What do you want? Emma smiled, finally reaching into her purse and pulling out a legal document. Partnership papers. For the consulting firm I'm starting. Your expertise, my financing, 50-50 split. You sign this and the video disappears. You refuse and Sarah gets a very interesting email about her husband's extracurricular activities. I stared at the contract, my mind reeling. You're insane. I'm owed. Her voice hardened. You made a promise. You broke it. Now you get to make it right. This is blackmail. This is justice. I looked around the diner, suddenly aware that other patrons could be watching, recording, documenting this conversation just like Emma had been documenting my life for months. How long have you been planning this? Since the day you posted your engagement announcement on Facebook. 12 years of careful observation, waiting for the right moment. Turns out unhappy husbands make predictable choices when presented with the right opportunities. The manipulation was staggering in its scope. You orchestrated the whole thing, the conference, running into me at the bar, everything. I orchestrated the opportunity. You made the choices, the drinking, the confessions, the invitation to your room. That was all you, Marcus. I just made sure there was evidence. My phone rang. Sarah's name appeared on the screen, and Emma's eyes lit up with malicious satisfaction. Answer it, she commanded. But remember, I have copies of everything. Hey, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Where are you? Sarah's tone was suspicious. Your car wasn't in the driveway when I got up. I told you I was going for a drive, getting coffee. It's been 3 hours, Marcus. What coffee shop is open at 4 a.m.? Emma watched me with predatory interest as I scrambled for an explanation. I drove to that 24-hour place on Highway 6. Needed time to think. About what? The question hung in the air, while Emma slid another photograph across the table. This one showed Sarah leaving a medical building I didn't recognize, talking closely with a man I'd never seen before. Nothing important, I said into the phone, staring at the image. Just work stuff. I'll be home soon. Okay, love you. Love you too. I hung up, my attention fixed on the photograph. What is this? Your wife's been keeping secrets too. Emma's smile was triumphant. Dr. Andrew Chen, fertility specialist. She's been seeing him for 8 months. The implications hit me like a freight train. 8 months of fertility appointments that Sarah had never mentioned. 8 months of secretly trying to get pregnant while our marriage deteriorated. How did you? The same way I got everything else. Patience and planning. Emma gathered the photos. Turns out your perfect wife has been just as unhappy as you. Just better at hiding it. She wants a baby. She wants to save your marriage. Nothing locks down a wandering husband like an unexpected pregnancy. Emma's laugh was cruel. Except her body isn't cooperating. Hence the specialist. I felt sick, not just about my own betrayal, but about the layers of deception that had apparently been threading through our marriage for months. But here's the beautiful irony, Emma continued. She's been desperately trying to get pregnant to save your marriage, while you were drunk, confessing to your ex about wanting to leave her. It's almost poetic. What do you want me to do? Sign the partnership agreement, join my firm, help me build what we should have built years ago. And if I refuse, Emma's smile turned predatory. Sarah gets the video, the photos of her secret doctor visits, and a detailed timeline of your lies. Your marriage ends, your reputation crumbles, and you lose everything anyway. At least this way, you get something in return. I stared at the contract, realizing I was trapped between 2 different betrayals, my own drunken infidelity and my wife's secret fertility treatments. Both of us had been lying, both of us had been planning, both of us had been trying to save a marriage that was apparently already dead. I need time to think. You have until midnight tonight. After that, I start making phone calls. Emma stood, leaving cash on the table for her untouched coffee. Oh, and Marcus, you might want to ask Sarah about Dr. Chen. See if she's as good at honesty as she expects you to be. She walked away, leaving me alone with the photos, the contract, and the devastating realization that neither my wife nor I were the people we'd pretended to be. But as I sat there in Mabel's diner, staring at evidence of my own moral failure, another thought began to form. If Emma had been planning this for 12 years, if she'd orchestrated our encounter in Denver, if she'd been surveilling my marriage for months, then maybe I wasn't the only one being manipulated. Maybe Sarah wasn't the only victim here. And maybe, just maybe, there was a way to turn the tables on someone who thought she'd planned for every contingency except the possibility that her target might finally grow a spine. I pulled out my phone and did something that would have terrified me that morning. I called Dr. Andrew Chen's office. I need to speak with the doctor about my wife, Sarah Mitchell. This is her husband, and I believe there's been some kind of misunderstanding about her treatment. What I discovered in that phone call changed everything I thought I knew about my marriage, my wife, and the elaborate game someone had been playing with our lives. But Emma wasn't the only one who could play chess. The receptionist's voice was professionally sympathetic. "I'm sorry, Mr. Mitchell, but we don't have any patient by that name in our system." My blood turned cold. "Could you check under Sarah Thompson? That's her maiden name." "I've checked both names, sir. Dr. Chen has never treated anyone by either name." The lie was so blatant, so easily disproven, that I couldn't understand why Sarah would risk it, unless she hadn't expected me to call, unless the medical building in Emma's photo wasn't related to fertility treatments at all. "Can you tell me what kind of practice Dr. Chen runs?" "Certainly. Dr. Chen specializes in psychiatric evaluation and therapy. He works primarily with patients experiencing severe depression, anxiety disorders, and relationship trauma." The phone slipped from my hand, clattering onto the diner table. Sarah hadn't been seeing a fertility specialist. She'd been seeing a psychiatrist. For 8 months, while our marriage crumbled, while I felt increasingly isolated and worthless, my wife had been in therapy. Without telling me, without suggesting couples counseling, processing our relationship problems with a complete stranger while letting me believe I was losing my mind. The photos Emma had shown me, Sarah leaving the medical building, talking intensely with Dr. Chen, suddenly took on a completely different meaning. They weren't evidence of secret fertility treatments. They were evidence of secret therapy sessions. But why hide it? And why was Emma surveilling my wife's medical appointments in the first place? I gathered the photos and contract, my hands shaking with adrenaline. Emma's revenge plot was more complex than simple blackmail. She'd been watching both of us, documenting our marital problems, waiting for the perfect moment to exploit our weaknesses. But she'd made one crucial error. She'd assumed I would never investigate her claims. As I drove home, pieces of a larger puzzle began falling into place. The conference in Denver hadn't been a coincidence. Emma's presence there, my uncharacteristic drinking, the convenient memory loss. None of it had been random. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with before I made my next move. Sarah was in the kitchen when I returned, making pancakes with the kind of domestic enthusiasm that only appeared when she was anxious about something. "Feel better?" she asked without turning around. "Much." I watched her carefully, looking for signs of deception. "Sarah, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Have you been happy?" "In our marriage, I mean. Really happy?" Her spatula paused mid-flip. "What kind of question is that?" "An honest one." She turned to face me, her expression guarded. "Where is this coming from?" "I've been thinking about us lately, about whether we're both getting what we need." Sarah's laugh was hollow. "What we need?" "Marcus, I've been trying to figure out what you need for months. You've been distant, distracted, like you're somewhere else entirely. I thought maybe you were having an affair." The accusation hung between us, uncomfortably close to the truth. "Are you?" she asked directly. "No," I said, which was technically accurate. "But I did run into someone from college recently. Emma Rodriguez. Do you remember me mentioning her?" Sarah's face went pale. "Emma Rodriguez? You know her?" Sarah fumbled for words, which was completely unlike her. "I remember you mentioning her years ago, an ex-girlfriend from college." But her reaction suggested more than distant memory. There was fear in her eyes, recognition, and something else I couldn't identify. "Sarah, is there something you're not telling me?" Before she could answer, my phone rang. Emma's name on the screen. Sarah saw it too, her face cycling through emotions I couldn't read. "Answer it," she said quietly. I declined the call, but Emma immediately called back. "Marcus?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "I need to tell you something about Emma Rodriguez." The phone continued ringing as my wife revealed the secret that would make Emma's blackmail scheme look like child's play. "She's my sister." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "Half-sister, technically. Same father, different mothers. She's been obsessed with you since college. With us. With destroying what we have. This isn't about a baby, Marcus. This is about revenge that's been 15 years in the making." The phone stopped ringing, then immediately started again. "And there's something else," Sarah continued, her voice shaking. "Dr. Chen isn't a fertility specialist. He's been helping me figure out how to handle Emma's harassment. She's been stalking us for years, Marcus. The photos, the surveillance, the manipulation. It's all part of a pattern that started long before Denver." I stared at my wife, trying to process this revelation. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because she threatened to hurt you if I involved you. She said she had ways to destroy your career, your reputation, your life. I've been trying to protect you by handling it alone." The phone rang again. This time I answered. "Time's up." Emma's voice was sharp with impatience. "Did you bring the tax returns?" "I know who you are," I said quietly. "Sarah told me." The silence stretched for so long, I thought the call had dropped. Then Emma laughed, a sound so bitter it could have curdled milk. "Did she now? And what exactly did my dear sister tell you?" "Sister." She'd said it so casually, confirming what still seemed impossible. "That you've been stalking us. That this isn't about a pregnancy." "Oh, but it is about a pregnancy." Emma's voice turned sing-song with malicious joy. "Just not the one I told you about." Another ice-cold realization washed over me. "Sarah? Check her bathroom, Marcus. Top drawer of her vanity, behind the birth control pills she's been pretending to take." The line went dead. I looked at Sarah, who had gone completely white. "What's in your bathroom drawer?" She closed her eyes, tears starting to fall. "Marcus, I can explain." But I was already moving, taking the stairs two at a time, my heart pounding with dread. In Sarah's vanity drawer, behind a bottle of birth control pills, I found what Emma had wanted me to discover. A positive pregnancy test dated 2 weeks ago. Sarah was pregnant, had been for 2 weeks, and hadn't told me. But if the test was only 2 weeks old, and Emma had been surveilling us for months, then how did she know about Sarah's pregnancy before Sarah had even taken the test? Unless she didn't. Unless this was another manipulation, another layer of the elaborate psychological game Emma had been playing with our lives. I returned to the kitchen where Sarah sat at the table, crying into her hands. "When were you going to tell me?" I asked. "Tonight. I wanted to surprise you. I've been so worried about us, about our marriage. And then this happened, and I thought maybe it was a sign that we could fix things. But you've been hiding it for 2 weeks. "I've been scared," she admitted. "Scared you'd think I was trying to trap you. Scared you'd want me to end it. Scared you'd leave." I sat beside her, my anger deflating into exhaustion. "Sarah, I would never—" "Your ex-girlfriend is blackmailing us," she interrupted. "She has photos of you in Denver, videos of you saying things about our marriage. She's been planning this for years, waiting for the right moment to destroy us." "How do you know about the videos?" Sarah's expression crumbled. "Because she sent them to me 3 days ago, along with a note saying she'd release everything unless I convinced you to sign some business partnership with her." The manipulation was staggering. Emma had been playing both sides, setting us against each other while positioning herself as the solution to problems she'd created. "You've known for 3 days that I cheated." "You didn't cheat," Sarah said firmly. "You were drugged. Look at the video again. Really look at it. You can barely stand, barely speak. That's not normal drunk behavior. That's something else entirely." I thought back to that night, to the inexplicable memory gaps, the unusual intensity of my hangover, the way I'd woken up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. "She drugged me?" "She drugged you, recorded you saying things you'd never say sober, then used it to manipulate both of us. The pregnancy story was just to get you alone so she could present her real demand. The partnership. The business plan you two developed in college. She never got over losing you. But more than that, she never got over losing the business opportunity. She spent 15 years building capital and connections, waiting for the right moment to force you into the partnership you originally promised. I pulled out the contract Emma had given me, reading it more carefully. The terms were sophisticated, legally binding, and completely one-sided. If I signed, I'd be locked into a business relationship with someone who had already proven she'd stop at nothing to get what she wanted. There's more, Sarah said quietly. The surveillance photos, the stalking. That's not all. She's been manipulating your career too. What do you mean? The Morrison account you've been stressed about? Emma's company is their primary competitor. She's been feeding them information about your proposals, sabotaging your presentations, making sure you fail. The room spun around me. How do you know this? Because I hired a private investigator after the harassment started. Everything Emma has done to us is documented. The stalking, the career sabotage, even evidence that she drugged you in Denver. Sarah pulled out her own manila envelope, this one thick with investigative reports, photographs, and legal documentation. We can destroy her, Marcus, completely. Professionally, legally, personally, but only if we work together. I stared at my wife, seeing her clearly for the first time in months. Not the cold, distant woman I'd been living with, but a partner who'd been fighting a secret war to protect our marriage while I'd been wallowing in self-pity. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because Emma threatened to escalate. She said if I involved you, she'd destroy your career first, then our marriage. I thought I could handle it alone. And the therapy with Dr. Chen was about dealing with the stress of being stalked by your psychotic ex-girlfriend while trying to save our marriage. Sarah's smile was weak but genuine. Though I suppose calling him a fertility specialist wasn't technically lying. We did discuss whether it was safe to have children while being harassed by someone unstable. The pregnancy test made sense now. Not a manipulation or a trap, but a leap of faith from a woman who'd been protecting our future while I'd been mourning our past. So what do we do now? Sarah's expression hardened with determination. Now we end this, once and for all. She opened her laptop, pulling up files I'd never seen before. Emma made one crucial mistake. She assumed I was as naive and helpless as she remembered from college. She never considered that in 15 years, I might have become someone capable of fighting back. The files contained months of evidence. Emma's financial records showing her business failures, documentation of her stalking behavior, proof of her career sabotage against me, even records of her purchasing date rape drugs online. You've been building a case against her. I've been building our defense. And now with the pregnancy as evidence of what she was really trying to destroy, we have everything we need to not just stop her, but to make sure she never threatens another couple again. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Midnight deadline still stands. Choose wisely. I showed the message to Sarah, who smiled grimly. Text her back, she said. Tell her you'll sign the contract, but you want to meet somewhere public to finalize everything. What are you planning? Justice, Sarah said, echoing Emma's earlier words. Real justice. As I typed the response that would set Emma's downfall in motion, I realized something profound had shifted between Sarah and me. The secrets were out, the lies exposed, the manipulation revealed. But instead of destroying our marriage, the truth had given us something we'd lost months ago, a common purpose. We were partners again, and Emma Rodriguez was about to discover that her carefully planned revenge had awakened something far more dangerous than she'd anticipated. A united front from two people who finally had nothing left to lose. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. We would meet Emma at a public restaurant, surrounded by witnesses. I would appear to sign the partnership agreement while Sarah secretly recorded everything. Emma would incriminate herself, revealing the blackmail, the drugging, the years of stalking. But as we prepared for the confrontation that would end Emma's reign of terror, my phone rang with a call that would change everything one final time. Marcus Mitchell? The voice was official, unfamiliar. Yes? This is Detective Rodriguez with the Denver Police Department. I need to speak with you about an incident that occurred at the Hampton Inn on March 15th. My blood froze. Detective Rodriguez. The same last name as Emma. I'm Emma's brother, the voice continued, as if reading my thoughts. And we need to talk about what my sister has been doing to you and your wife. Sarah grabbed my arm, her eyes wide with shock. Emma's brother was a police detective, which meant either we were about to get the help we desperately needed, or we were walking into an even more elaborate trap set by an entire family of people who wanted to destroy us. Detective, I said carefully, what exactly do you know about your sister's activities? Enough to know that you and your wife are in serious danger. Emma isn't just obsessed with you, Mr. Mitchell. She's been obsessed with destroying your marriage since the day it began. And what happened in Denver was just the beginning of something much worse. What do you mean, much worse? The pregnancy she told you about? It's not hers. She stole the ultrasound images from another patient. The baby she's carrying isn't from her husband. He's been deployed overseas for the past year. And the father? His pause was ominous. The father is someone she's been manipulating for months, someone else whose life she's been systematically destroying. I looked at Sarah, who had gone completely pale. Detective, are you saying there's someone else Emma is blackmailing? I'm saying my sister has been running this same con on multiple men, creating fake pregnancies, manufacturing evidence of affairs, destroying marriages, and forcing her victims into business partnerships that she uses to fund her increasingly elaborate schemes. The scope of Emma's manipulation was beyond anything I could have imagined. How many victims? I asked. 7 that we know of. All successful men, all married, all with some connection to Emma from their past. She targets couples with existing problems, exploits their vulnerabilities, then forces the husbands into business deals that she uses to expand her operation. Sarah grabbed the phone from my hand. Detective, this is Sarah Mitchell. How do we stop her? You already have. The evidence you've been collecting? We've been building the same case from our end. Emma doesn't know I've been investigating her, and she definitely doesn't know that her latest target is married to someone smart enough to fight back. The plan Detective Rodriguez outlined was brilliant. Emma expected me to meet her tonight to sign the partnership agreement. Instead, we'd be walking into a carefully orchestrated sting operation with multiple law enforcement agencies involved. What about the other victims? Sarah asked. They'll finally get justice, and their marriages will finally be free from Emma's interference. As the detective explained the details, I realized something profound had happened. The worst day of my marriage had become the catalyst for the strongest partnership Sarah and I had ever shared. Emma's attempt to destroy us had instead revealed our capacity to protect each other. That evening, we drove to the restaurant where Emma waited with her contract and her ultimatums. But this time, we weren't victims. We were hunters. Emma sat in a corner booth, confidence radiating from her as she watched me approach. She had no idea that her brother was watching from an unmarked car outside, that Sarah was recording every word from a nearby table, that her entire operation was about to crumble. Did you bring the tax returns? She asked as I sat down. I brought something better, I said, sliding a different set of papers across the table. Divorce documents. For you and your husband. Turns out he's been looking for grounds to leave you for months. Emma's confident mask slipped slightly. What are you talking about? Your husband contacted me after Detective Rodriguez reached out. Apparently, stealing ultrasound images and faking pregnancies to blackmail strangers isn't the kind of behavior that strengthens a marriage. I watched the color drain from her face as she realized her carefully constructed lie was unraveling. You're bluffing. Your brother doesn't think so. Neither do the other 6 men you've been blackmailing, or their wives, or the FBI agents who've been building a federal case against you for mail fraud, extortion, and drugging people across some state lines. Emma's eyes darted toward the exit, but Detective Rodriguez was already walking through the door, his badge visible. Emma Rodriguez, he said sadly, approaching our table. You're under arrest. As they led her away in handcuffs, Emma turned back to me one final time. You think you've won? You think your perfect marriage will survive this? It already has, I replied, because it was never perfect. It was just real, and real marriages survive what fake revenge plots never could. 6 months later, Sarah and I welcomed our daughter. The baby Emma had tried to use as a weapon became the blessing that completed our healing. Emma was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for her elaborate blackmail operation. But the real victory wasn't her punishment. It was discovering that the marriage I'd thought was broken had just been under attack. When Sarah and I finally fought together instead of against each other, we became unstoppable. Sometimes the worst betrayal comes from the people who claim to love you. But sometimes surviving that betrayal shows you exactly who deserves your love in return. The trial made national headlines. The Sisters' Revenge, a 15-year plot exposed. Emma's elaborate blackmail operation had targeted successful men across 5 states, destroying marriages and stealing millions through forced business partnerships. During her testimony, Emma finally revealed the depth of her obsession. She'd been tracking my life since college graduation, waiting for any sign of marital trouble. When she discovered Sarah's posts about relationship counseling on a private social media group, she knew her moment had arrived. "I deserved that life," she told the court, her composure finally cracking. "We had plans. He promised me everything, then threw it away for her. I was just taking back what was mine." But the most chilling revelation came from Dr. Chen, who testified that Emma had been impersonating Sarah to gather intelligence about our marriage problems. She'd attended 3 therapy sessions under Sarah's name, learning our vulnerabilities, mapping our weaknesses. She knew exactly which pressure points to target, Dr. Chen explained. The sessions gave her a blueprint for psychological manipulation. Emma received 8 years for extortion, fraud, and assault with intent to harm. Her other victims finally found peace, their marriages slowly healing from years of manufactured chaos. Sarah and I named our daughter Hope, not for the obvious symbolism, but because she taught us that sometimes the best things grow from the worst circumstances. Our marriage isn't perfect now, but it's honest. We fight about normal things like whose turn it is to do dishes, not about manufactured crises designed to tear us apart. The business plan Emma stole became the foundation for a legitimate consulting firm that Sarah and I built together. Turns out, partnership works better when it's based on love rather than blackmail. Last week, I received a letter from prison, Emma requesting a visit, claiming she had information about other victims, other schemes still in motion. I showed the letter to Sarah, and we decided together. Some doors should stay closed forever. But here's what Emma never understood about real love versus obsession. Love grows stronger when tested by truth, while obsession crumbles when exposed to light. She spent 15 years in the darkness, planning our destruction. We spent one honest conversation rebuilding what she thought she'd broken. Sometimes the people who claim to know you best are the ones who understand you least. And sometimes the person you've been taking for granted is the only one willing to fight for you when everything falls apart. Emma thought she was playing chess while we played checkers. She never realized we'd been playing an entirely different game, one where the prize wasn't victory over each other, but victory together. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, wait until you hear about the woman who discovered her husband's secret family living just 3 streets away. Hit that subscribe button, because the most devastating betrayals are always the ones hiding in plain sight. And trust me, after 15 years of investigating stories like these, I can promise you that the next one will leave you questioning everyone you think you know.